This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I certainly hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving and that you are tuning in for us this Friday, since most people will have the following day off. I want to welcome back to the show today, Terry Batcher and Harriet Suchet.
Hi, kids.
Yay.
Hello.
Yes.
Like a kid every now and again, every time I step into my 14-year-old life and body.
Yay, see.
And you like it infrequently too, right?
Yeah, this is going on.
I had a feeling that was going to come back around at some point. So today I'm really kind of just starting off with some follow-up to some comments that were once again made. I want to go ahead and pop up the presentation so you guys can see. I literally, like I said, just got done reorganizing and outfitting my office with new filing cabinets and things that could hold and contain all of the miscellaneous files that I had around the office. So I have put up here, you guys, just kind of a glimpse of what it looks like in my office that has to do with the Zodiac case. And that comes about because, right? That comes about because I received another one of those infamous emails from Moonlight, who wanted to chastise me to spend more time on victims, researching victims and how the victims fit in, which I had already explained to her. I'm not doing the research on the victims or the victimology or these other things. Everybody has their own research avenues that they take in this case. Like Harriet, you are the decoder. You're the code person. You're the message person. All your research barrels around that, not necessarily the victims. You're coming up with names you don't even know are a part of this until you figure out who these people are after you discover what the name is, right?
Then I stop what I'm doing and get online and scour to see if this name is actually valid to Jack's world, you know?
Right. Or to the cases at hand. And then Terry, you have been knee deep, and I want to say deeper than anybody, in the John Benet Ramsey case. That seemed to have been your forte, correct?
Right.
So you're studying
the note itself, the structure of the note.
Yes.
Correct. And that has led you into deep research about the victimology, about different things, about the way the autopsy reports are, about the parents, the play, everything that is going on surrounding that case. And that keeps you pretty busy, right?
Well, it does when I get an appetite for it, because after a while it's a daunting task. Sometimes I do best if I just lay off it for a while and come back at it too. You know?
How many files do you think that you have in regards to that case? Just a guesstimate.
Oh boy, I don't, not anywhere near the ones you do, not on paper anyway. I started printing some of that stuff. Any of this stuff I started printing, and I ran out of ink in my printers right away. Like, let's go elsewhere for ink. Go to FedEx and get your stuff printed. But, yeah, a lot. But the discoveries have come in bits.
Thousands, probably, right?
Well, yeah. Well, the discoveries are the main thing. Is they're trying to figure out, what does he mean by all this craziness? It's
just wait until we get to the Ramsey letter.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Oh my God!
How many files do you think?
Murder, but
How many files do you think you have, Harriet? Just throw a number out there, because we know it's going to be way beyond. But
it's I think I'm going to just say over 500. That's the solves I've done. So that's then times that by each page. That could be, we're talking about even on
Thousands.
paper, about thousands of papers.
Yeah.
Thousands. So also she said that I need to entertain the crowd. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I personally am not
entertaining enough.
Hey, you know what? I laugh. People laugh. That's entertainment. Whatever.
Yes. I try to look presentable for the shows. Isn't that entertaining enough?
My point is that I didn't pay to do this for entertainment. I'm not here to make people laugh or to make people cry or to touch people's heartstrings. I'm literally here just to deliver the information on Jack Terrence, the handwriting match, and to show how he is the best suspect for these cases. So I'm not here to entertain people. I want you to take away from this what I have to tell you about Jack and what I have to tell you about these letters and the handwriting. So I threw out a big WTF on that one as far as spend more time on victims. I'm not here for that. That's what you do, Moonlight, not me. She also says that. Yeah, everybody does that. Well, and if these people weren't jackwagons and they weren't trolls and they weren't bashing you and calling you names and saying rude things, we would all collectively work together. The Zodiac case kind of reminds me of getting the bad people out of politics. We cannot get enough people on the same page to make this happen because everybody has their opinions or their perspectives or their beliefs. The bottom line is we know they're not good for us. We need to get them out. How do we all come together to make that happen? And she has not shown the wherewithal to do that.
Well, if she wants to get
switchers too, if you invite one troll in, you invite however many hats he carries or she carries, is that what I'm saying by hat switcher? I mean, you think you're talking one person, they're ready to gang up with another fake person and then another fake person and another fake person. They do it frequently.
Well, if she wants to get a good laugh, she needs to look at, I got to say about the blogs that I got. There's one of the blogs has the decode of the 1978 letter, the Channel 9 letter, and the Get Carter letters. And Jack does not. Well, I mean, when I'm getting it really quickly, that's the one time I really got some laughs out of that because he really does not like Jimmy Carter.
Well, either way, it's not. This is not about entertainment by any means. This is not. I'm not putting on a show.
Go see those because I couldn't believe how much he hates Jimmy Carter and how he's addressing him. So, anyways, let's go.
Okay. I'm just saying I'm not here for entertainment, and her suggestion that I should be is completely a waste of my time. I'm not doing this to entertain people. I don't even rewatch my own shows because I am not privy to wanting to watch myself speak or talk or see how things are. I'm not looking to do that. I just want
to interject that it does. I think it does pay though to keep it interesting if you possibly can from time to time, so it doesn't get dry. But I between you and me and everybody else that's here, it's always interesting to us. But do we have to entertain people that are have short attention spans or whatever?
Interesting. If she had said keep it interesting, I would have called her on that because that we do at a minimum. But to say that I need to entertain the crowd, I think was completely offbeat. She also says so in one email, she's telling me about Poe and the Edgar Allan Poe thing and saying that this is where Harriet is coming up with Poe stuff, which sounds like she's doing something in order to assist in this, but then she turns around and follows it with an email that does something like this, where she's telling me that I need to do some more research. You guys, I have over 12,000 digital files. I have 18 plus binders, 3 to 5 inches thick, in these filing cabinets right here, plus another 20 file folders that are hanging of information. And I have read all of this. So how dare anybody make some statement as if I've not done my research just because I'm not on the same path or putting together the same things they are. If she wants to get on this show, she said to put her on this show for 20 minutes and it will be the best 20 minutes my listeners have ever heard. Wow, the audacity of somebody to say that they are more interesting than what we're going to be showing America today.
So who is this person?
I wouldn't trip on that person at all.
Somebody in the entertainment industry.
Is it? Yeah. I stopped tripping on the person, but I just thought that it was probably probative if they're out there writing if they're writing these emails
Trolls
to
have
me,
audacity. They're just audacious. They're just terrible that way. They're all that way.
If they are putting that out into an email to me, it is likely that they are putting that out in blogs and to other people. So I just thought I was going to wrap that up and show everybody that I am done my research. I have done what I needed to do to put Jack together with this case. And that's all I'm trying to do. Everybody else brings their own little caveat to this. Harriet with her solves, Terry with your in-depth research on the John Benet Ramsey case, which will be coming up. But we all have our part. OCCK
I've done
too.
deep dive OCCK too.
Exactly.
Yeah, the
I
Oakland
read it
child
till I'm
murders.
bleary-eyed. Lots of files, OCCK. Lots of files.
Right. Yeah, thousands. So for somebody to say I need to buckle down and do my research, I about fell over and laughed. Like, I'm trying to get rid of the stuff out of my office, which is why I'm delivering this information so I can eventually pack that up and use all that space for me and my life and my future, not the past.
Right. I sympathize. I get it.
Well, today we're going to be talking about the radian theory that was taken, or Dennis had taken and spun off of Garth Penn's research, and his was circa 1981 to 82. This landed Garth Penn on one of the suspect lists for both Tom Voigt and many other people who tend to believe that just because Garth figured out the radian theory that he must have been the Zodiac, but they just really, they lack all the evidence and anything they need in order to persist with that person.
They beat him up to hell and back. I remember.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So at the end of the little list letter, Zodiac wrote radian and number of inches along the radians. And so that's what kicked into play the radian theory. Now, in Harriet Solve, you talk about my dark room on 280-101 Northeast San Jose, on the 66 map, Discover America, arrow points west, I bomb in bus on Mount Diablo, and use string arrows 2 inches along the radian going up the mountain. X marks the spot at 3690 feet. This was extremely interesting to me because while Dennis could not have known about you coming up with these solves at a later date that described this dark room, Dennis spoke heavily in regards to the dark room, but I thought that it only applied to the fact that he had reproduced pictures of Black Dahlia on 110 film that had not been developed, so that if somebody was to come and search his house, they'd find the 110 film and not associate that in any way, shape, or form to Black Dahlia, because 110 film did not exist at the time Black Dahlia was murdered. I thought that was an extremely interesting point that you had pulled out from it. Now, the diagram over here to the right is actually Dennis placing the clock above and over the top of the Mount Diablo site. And then, of course, those radians working their ways off into the directions of where they would float to. And one of them obviously runs right down into all the way down Riverside, all the way down into Riverside. So that radian line is still holding true to the Sherry Jo Bates murder. This is Dennis's, again, radian theory. So he says, Denny must have liked it in Vietnam because he chose to go back and do a second term. It was obvious it did not bother Jack's son to kill, and he may have even enjoyed it. Jack watched his dad shoot a man over a beer bottle. His dad only got a 4-year suspended sentence. He didn't spend even one day in jail. One part of the Zodiac case that I was about to get into was the geographical aspect. I wanted to see if Jack somehow fit into this part of the case. In 1980, a man by the name of Garth Penn discovered something that I feel is a very significant clue. In one of the letters, Zodiac referred to radians and inches along the radians. Garth Penn discovered that making a line from the top of Mount Diablo to the murder site of Paul Stein in San Francisco, and another line from the 2 murder sites near Vallejo, and connect them to the top of Mount Diablo, you get a perfect radian angle. A radian angle is 57.3 degrees. When Garth Penn described the way he felt after he made this discovery, he said it felt like a ton of bricks fell on him. After the discovery of just one radian, it seemed to me that there was a lot more to be discovered surrounding Penn's theory, and there was indeed. The Zodiac mentioned radians as in more than one, as well as inches along them. The murder site of Paul Stein in San Francisco and the Vallejo murders, when connected to the top of Mount Diablo, make a radian angle. The other known Zodiac attacks happened at Lake Berryessa. When you connect that location to the top of Mount Diablo, you get an oddball angle of about 16.2 degrees. Now, everybody, if you understand radians, which I clearly don't, do you guys?
Yes and no, but the line I'm gonna get it. It's extending way past inches, but you know, he did make that discovery that wow, this goes all the way over here to where Paul Stein is, and then the other lines.
I mean, more like in the whole mathematical theory of radians, like
what it's tied to. What it's tied to is the whole celestial navigation business.
That's what I was going to say. So, yes.
Right. And it relies on perfect timing to be accurate to where you're going to go. And that's what everything. So when he said, what was it? Jack said, you know, cryptically to Dennis, what time is it? I mean, he's accentuating, or, you know, he's pointing to the word time. So when you see the hands of clock that was on that last page, that's going to, if you were a navigator in World War II, for example, or before, you would need to know exactly the time to know where you're at.
And they did travel by watches, too.
And that brings us back to the 19...
at their watch. It's very complex.
And that also brings back the 1966 Paytech. Yes, please. Hold on, guys. 1966 Paytech Felipe Swiss photoelectric atomic clock that you believe Jack was in possession of or could have been inside one of his ham radio machines, correct?
Yes, I know he had one because that's the non-Zodiac stuff that Dennis would talk about a lot. Jack driving everybody crazy with that damn atomic clock. That's what he kept on saying. Man, yeah, he had one.
So here in this middle point is Mount Diablo, and Dennis has then drawn those lines off to show that A is the murder of Paul Stein connected to Mount Diablo, B is the murder sites near Vallejo connected to Mount Diablo, and C, the Lake Berryessa attack connected to Mount Diablo. That makes, so in the radian world, you're going to have, 5 radians at 57.3 degrees with one final radian at the 16.2? To complete the 360-degree circle. Okay. So we do definitely have that falling on the radians. Now, he goes on to say the Zodiac left a clue and a pretty significant one. He killed at 2 locations that form an angle of 57.3 degrees when connected to the Mount Diablo. He also committed another crime at a specific location that when connected to Mount Diablo made an angle of 16.2 degrees. He then wrote to a San Francisco newspaper and said that he would no longer announce whom he killed. They would just appear to be routine robberies, suicides, etc. The word Zodiac in Greek simply means circle. It would later become associated with astrology. Zodiac wanted someone to discover his efforts in his geographical calculations. Garth Penn was on the right track in his findings, but there was a lot more waiting to be uncovered. Zodiac sent a map of the Bay Area to police in 1970. On this map, Zodiac marked a symbol over Mount Diablo. The cross with a circle was centered on Mount Diablo, and on the circle, he placed a 369, and he wrote N for north, but he failed to put the 0 down, which is something you found in your solve to be useful.
Yeah, it's the 3,800 feet further, just a fraction of an inch up. Further up is the Mount Diablo. I think the icon for mountain, but he's got the X right in the middle. That's at 3,690 feet.
Right.
And Dennis got a video somewhere of him being, I think, at or near that place. We'll have to look for that. But anyways, yeah.
Okay, so he says which had the... Yeah.
One little thing. You're dealing with a circle, and you're not going to have perfect math. There's going to be a little bit of an approximation involved, just like the formula for pi, for the radius of a circle. At 3.1416, blah, blah, blah. It's never be perfectly exact. You know, just a point. Because 3 isn't going to be even either when it comes out. You know,
he said that N was in the place of the 12, which again, I don't see that. I see the 0 in the place of the 12.
Well, assuming he was
He says, assuming he was portraying a clock face, I found out later after working with several law enforcement agencies that there had been watches found at several different crime scenes that were possibly the work of the Zodiac. The watches that were found had been purposely stopped at a specific time for reasons unknown. This information concerning the watches was never made public. The only time this information was made public was during the news coverage of a young Riverside woman who was murdered in 1966. Her name was Sherry Bates. This is where, go ahead.
One quick thing. Okay, so the old-fashioned minutes and seconds description of a location on GPS, or however you want to look at it for navigating, the old-fashioned method was by minutes and seconds. So they did their timing checks by minutes and seconds, and microseconds if you want to get real accurate. But later on, the military switched to a decimal method instead. So the solved, like I got out of the Ramsey note, that's in decimal form, and that's a military expression. So it's instead of being in minutes and seconds, it comes out as a decimal form, with the definition being greater with the greater number of digits to the right you have. Just one little thing I'm throwing in. You want to keep it interesting, I can jump up and down and make.
Now, I know that in the past, Harriet and I followed the lines of latitude and longitude as it relates to the numbers that were being placed on the communications by the Zodiac. So we had some in-depth research and took a look at those numbers. I don't know if we'll visit that again. Does that seem to be something very pertinent to this particular presentation, Harriet, as it applies to where Jack is? Is that something you think we should cover?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and any avenues, because this is just Okay, my computer is saying that my battery might be dying in about 10 minutes, but so I'll just when I go, I'll call in. Okay.
Okay. All right. So basically, the diagram below shows two places of residence and a camping spot of Jack's between 1968 and 1970. These locations are lined up with known crime scenes of the Zodiac. I had to consider the chances of this just being a coincidence, and the chances are remote. If Jack's places of residence made a radian angle that was not lined up with known crime scenes, then I could see the possibility of it just being a coincidence. The fact that they are lined up is beyond circumstantial. I have goosebumps right now. Yes. So we have Jack in Nyack in 1968-69. We have him down in the San Jose area during 69-70 through 72 with his dark room. We also have him off into Chiquito Creek, which is one of his favorite camping locations, and they all fall on a radian. This is more of an in-depth look on a color map that Dennis had actually put together. So A is the murder of Paul Stein right here. B is the Lake Herman murders and the Vallejo murders. C is the Lake Berryessa murders. D is where Jack lived in Nyack. E is his favorite campground in the late 60s. F actually goes down to the Riverside murder of Sherry Jo Bates, and G is Sunnyvale, where Jack lived late 1960s, early 70s.
That dark room.
That dark room. And there's that perfect circle with the perfect radians, everything lining up. So once again, when I give you the information of who Jack is, the training that he has, his capabilities of doing all of these things, now to find that his life actually lines up on these radians, or that it's more than circumstantial, it's more than a coincidence.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm just wondering, could all these people be under that MK Ultra spell of that stuff? And they're all going to be pre-positioned in years in advance. And they're all I mean, it's just, it's possible. I mean, as weird as it sounds, I'm wondering, were they all under this weird influence for these times to take place and things to happen? Wow.
Well, I think that the remote viewing and the things that were being done by hypnosis and through the MK Ultra program at the time definitely included locationing, which included latitude and longitude for the areas that they were either viewing or where they would go to complete whatever murder or otherwise that they needed to do. So to continue on with Dennis Kaufman's theory, it says the most bizarre part of this case is the geographical pattern. Looking at the following page, you will notice several dots along the radians. Each dot is the location of known and unknown Zodiac victims.
Mm-hmm.
Several of the dots are locations of victims that Graysmith lists in the back of his book. So you guys, this is work Dennis did. Dennis found where these individuals were murdered and killed. He marked these points on the map, and you can see how all these unsolved murders all the way along the inches of the radian lines is indicating more murders.
Right. But
he
something
says,
to bear in mind, a point is that somewhere along that radian line is going to be a set of coordinates that defines where that body is located. So you've got to have some way of doing that. Perhaps these.
Hey, Nolan, I might only be here.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, your sound is horrible. You're going to need earphones too. We found out that the reason why we're getting so much feedback on us is that 2 of you are not using headphones. If you guys use headphones, we'll stop getting that feedback from the sound. But good morning, Nolan.
Good morning.
All right, so we're talking about the
radian. Hearing you too. It's weird.
I'll finish my point real quick, as to say that perhaps these watches that have been left with the bodies are a signal to look at another location based on timing, based on hours, minutes, and seconds,
Or an alternate theory to that is that they could have been stopped at a particular time, planted at the next crime scene as an indicator to when the last suspect he stole that watch from died. So there's a couple theories there that could literally be true.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't know for certain just yet, but.
Right. So it says several of the dots are locations of victims that Graysmith lists in the back of his book, and others are the locations of unsolved murders that I had found throughout California. To give you an example of how accurate this pattern is, I will list the location of the Sonoma County victims so you can look them up on a map. Sonoma County appears to have the most victims. So Maureen L. Sterling and Yvonne Weber was found 122872 on Franz Valley Road. You can look those up on the map and find that they hit the radian. Kim Wendy Allen was found on 3572 on Enterprise Road, approximately 20 feet from the roadway. Lori Lee Cursa was found on 121472 at approximately 3:40 p.m. on Calistoga Road. Teresha Walsh was found on 122873 and approximately 2:10 p.m. in Mark Wetz Creek. Teresa Matthews' body was found along the Russian River in northern Sonoma County. Other victims were also found in the same locations as the above. Zodiac must have felt comfortable on those lightly traveled roads that run through Sonoma County. The Zodiac ended one of his letters mentioning radians and inches along the radians. That is exactly what the diagram is on the following page. The diagram below has 7 lines extending outward from the peak of Mount Diablo. Along those lines are dots that mark crime scenes related to Zodiac. The first murders were very time-consuming for the Zodiac because he had to find a victim at a specific location. Once he established his single radian and his 16.2-degree angle, he would then just find victims at random and place their bodies along these radians. Ding, 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 ding.
Well, I got to tell you something. I've done all of the Sonoma. Okay, now it's my. Anyways, I've done Sterling Weber, Allen, Lori Lee Cursa, and there's no Teresa Walsh, by the way, is actually. Anyways, there's going to be a lot of corrections there, but Jack is definitely, and his crew is connected to them, but he did not kill those girls. So anyways, you're about to lose me, so I'm going to go on the phone, okay?
Okay. All right. So continuing on with this.
We lose you, then go on the phone. It might have more life than you think.
Let's see. I know.
All right. I'm continuing on. So basically, here's the color version of what Dennis had put together. Dennis Kaufman then learned that there were 51, I believe, unsolved murders on the radian lines in inches along them. Sandy Bett's murder map contains approximately 50-some murders. There's some confirming information, and it was delivered to her in the 1980s. It seems I'm not too far off from the truth about the number of victims the Zodiac Killer attacked and claimed to have attacked. The radian to the south goes straight through to Riverside, California, as we discussed before. All right, so I brought up some of these clocks that are used in celestial navigation, some some information in regards to. Oh, I'm getting feedback from my own again.
Your sound is better now since Harriet left from my side. Can you hear me?
Right? Yeah, I can hear you, but I was having feedback on my own end and I didn't know how yet. All right, I'm better. Anyways, so I decided to actually take and when you look at the next communication where he says, be sure to print the part I marked out on page 3 or I shall do my thing, he actually marks this circle now with points of reference that is just like a clock. So all the way around, you can see these little points that he's placed where another line would either intersect with Mount Diablo or be a possible line of location for people who had passed. Now, the Zodiac's compass was not a radian solution of 57.2 as suggested by some. Look at the arrows, which point to the breakdown of the 12-point system Zodiac actually used. Now, position at Mag North, roughly 16.85 degrees during that time frame, and lay over Dennis's radian theory, which becomes Mike Cole's 30-degree, 60-degree theory, and the theory that Cat's Eye or Harriet Suchet and I ponder with the Zodiac compass and radian clock. So you can see that, again, it also resembles a gun sight, right?
Right.
So
one
key
point, one real quick point. Now that if those bodies are actually found along those lines there, does that kind of tell you that there were other killers that were on a script to go and kill and put the bodies besides Jack? In other words, it was too much work for one killer?
Well, and that's what we've been discussing is Zodiac as a group versus Zodiac as a single. Right. And Jack being the member of the mob that's responsible for articulating these messages and getting them to the right place. And he had the power to do so because he did kill people and he was given the precedence by the newspapers, by the police department, by everyone else to be taken serious. So is he literally indicating how many people he has killed or the group has killed? I know that Moonlight suggests that there's another person I need to check out who's made some decodes who keep coming up with the names Frank, Jack, and John. Now that fits in with my Jack, obviously, but I don't know enough about this individual to take them serious. If they watch my podcast, they're welcome to contact me. I would love to entertain whatever it is that they have going on. I'm just not going to do it through that avenue of Moonlight. So I did this on a color map too. So I did, and I stretched lines out all the way around, in which case there were murders or things that I believe Jack was responsible for. The blue lines were actually Jack and where he was, and the red lines were actual lines of murder. And some of these can stretch all the way across the United States, right on into OCCK, all the way down into Atlanta, Georgia. Like these lines are making sense.
That's cool.
Let's see, found that there are more points to other locations that line up with the Zodiac's interpretation of the time theory. The extra leg seen in my version shows additional unsolved murders in areas Jack was known to frequent. Look how those areas nearly coincide with the points on the clock. I'm getting feedback again. No, Nolan, please lower the volume a bit on your computer speakers.
Put them up closer to your ear.
Are you there, Nolan?
Well, Harriet's here, but not Nolan. What happened to Nolan?
Hold on, I'm trying to figure out.
If you put the speaker real close to you, your ear, it'll act as the same way,
No, I was getting reference from Juan that Nolan, please lower the volume a bit on your computer speakers. I feel like that echo is gone now, so we're going to continue. So my idea of putting the diagram from the Zodiac Killer on top of Dennis Kaufman's plotted unsolved murders shows X mark toward the Marin area. So that was another thing that I wanted to point out, is that not only are these dots and spots lining up with these radian lines, but there's also one extra one here that had not been accounted for. And when I looked at that, that went right through Marin. And Marin, we know that we have Mount Tamalpais that we've talked about as far as another military location where unsolved murders had occurred. We have the Deer Draft Board letters that came out of Marin County itself. So we have another lineup there that is going that has not been explored. So I'm thinking there's more to it than just a radian. The radian got us started, but you can expound upon that by using the 12-point system of the watch.
You can travel there if you're flying along the
Sure.
radian line, you know.
And that brings us to the July 28th night. What's that?
My reception of your audio really improved a lot when Harriet was off. But when she came back on, all this distortion came back. It's really weird.
She's on the phone now. She's on the phone now. She's not on the computer, so she can't be having an effect on our audio.
Maybe it's something in the studio interface.
I think it can, because she's the minute it appeared on the top of the screen that she was back on audio only, then the distortion started again. I don't know if that's coincidence or not, but that's what's going on.
I've had distortion. Yeah, I've had distortion since you climbed on. We didn't have any in the last episode, and we didn't have any until you climbed on. So,
here, I'll get out
and
then come back in.
No. It's fine.
It's a form of feedback when you don't have the earbuds, is what it is. It's a form of
right. So this is why
microphone feedback.
He's not listening and he climbed off. Anyways, on July 28th, 1970, the Zodiac sent in 2 additional pages to the Mikado, the 384 and 385 pages. I want to compare that to the button letter or even to the little list letter to see how close that information is, because again, this has the poem. The Mikado was played for the U.S. troops in Tokyo, Japan in 1945, and Jack was in Japan in 1945 on his first tour in the Navy. FBI FOIA states that this is a portion of a song sung by Coco, the Lord High Executioner, in Act 1 of the Mikado, and a portion sung by the Mikado in Act 2. So that basically is all that I really had to share today. So let's go back and talk about these Radians and what everybody has to say about them. Aha. All right. Harriet, I know that you had missed out on part of that, but I
was listening. I could able to hear it, but the Radians, I mean, it's just it's showing in the long run for me, because I've done all the Santa Rosa murders, and I've done all the Doodler cases, which were originally Jack Torrance or Zodiac cases. Anyways, there's a connection to Jack and his crew, but it's why they're going after these people who killed these people. It's a lot more than just that, but he's definitely connected to it. And for some reason, maybe they're all under this MK Ultra spell, all the real killers who killed Lori Lee Cursa, Marine, and, the Sterling and Weber. I can go on, but it's hitting along all those radian lines. It's, it's just absolutely disturbing what this MK Ultra world evolved into.
Well, and would that kind of bring you back to something like Suspect Zero, where he's remote viewing these killers and then finding these killers and killing them?
I guess in anything that's MK Ultra related, it's possible, because if I understand correctly, and I think Nolan, he understood something about the LSD effects. If you were to be taking a particular type of somebody's designed LSD, and then you're all being talked to at the same time period while you're all tripping, you're becoming that person, the one who designed it, if I understand correctly, a part of their soul. So let's backtrack. I'm believing at this point that Jack was there when Frank Olson went out the window. But let's just say that they were both given that Mickey Finn of that LSD, the CIA ultra strength version. Jack may not have had to have been there when Frank is going out the window, because they were all sharing in a weird way the part of that same evil soul. So it would be, I think, considered remote viewing, because there are people that have flashbacks, from years later of whatever happened during that LSD trip for those hours. So that's what Jack is doing in 1974. So that would be, I think, considered a version of remote viewing.
Which is what the Twitch thing was I was talking about on the other episode.
What's that?
Remote viewing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Twitch service is a remote viewing service of a live stream of a person that's waiting for their food or whatever, and somebody else wants to do spot betting on them and take a bet on who's going to die first and all that, they're going to have all the people that have signed up to bet on with this person who dies first and when, and things like that, so they can then extort the people that were involved in that racket. But
now, Nolan just stepped
the
out.
word Twitch. I mean, the word Twitch is the key thing here, because that was the name of the service. But what happens when you die? You twitch your last. It's a hint towards murder, I think.
Right.
Twitch. So that's why I brought it up, and that's why I keep coming back to it. But that's a contemporary thing.
It is. I know that Harriet was just briefly talking about the sharing of the minds or sharing of these evil ways for those that have done the LSD. And Nolan had hopped off. But can you repeat that real quick, Harriet, so that Nolan can chime in on that?
If I understand correctly, because I'm from San Francisco, I knew people who did LSD, but let's just, if I understand correctly, if somebody designed a particular strength of LSD and they're all given it the same time period, the same hours, the same, day work, and then they're talked to or like programmed, so to speak, that they get a part of that other person's soul or mind. That's why it became a mind control drug.
Right.
And then if they're off of it, then what I was getting at was Jack keeps on seeing Frank Olson going out the window, but in theory, what if they were both, like Jack says, he was also Mickey Finned with the same LSD that they gave Frank. So he might not have been there, but I'm believing he was there. But
right.
It would when that event is happening, he's going out. I mean, he's seeing it, but in a remote viewing way. That's the theory's possible. That's what I'm going at.
Absolutely. There's triggers too. They can be triggered to a certain event. Have you seen the movie? It's an old movie, Frank Sinatra movie from the 60s called The Manchurian Candidate. I bet Nolan knows.
Yes.
Oh my God, I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're getting at here is that's what the people were, the ones that were controlled assassins. That's how that operated, what you're talking about. And it's a real deal. It's a real deal.
Yeah.
Real thing.
And that was involved brainwashing. And
brainwashing,
that
right?
particular movie, it wasn't in combination with drugs, but it was intense brainwashing by,
right.
I don't know if it was Chinese or who it was, but they basically programmed the Lawrence Harvey character to become an assassin when he got back to the States.
Right.
And the Queen of Hearts would be the card that would trigger his actions. And so someone would say, why don't you play a little solitaire? And then he'd do solitaire, and the Queen of Hearts would come up, and he'd go assassinate someone.
Yeah,
wow.
It's not a movie you'll forget. When you watch it, you'll watch it more than once, and you'll never forget that movie. It's a stunner.
Don't you borrow it? I own it.
Well, I would like to then, because I don't know if I've seen the whole thing, at least not since I've been doing this particular case, which might help to kind of allude to some of these other things like remote viewing and so forth that we're talking about. But we definitely know that there's always some type of trigger for a hypnotic state, whether it be a word, a music, a frequency, a signal or a sign like a card of the Queen of Hearts. We know that something pops them in, and then there's also got to be something that pops them out, right?
That's got to be
There's a really good book called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. It's by a man named John Marks, and that book is referenced quite a bit in the biography of Frank Olson. And the biography of Frank Olson basically is also the history of LSD experiments and other drug experiments and mind control and behavior control through MK Ultra, Artichoke, Bluebird, and all the rest of them.
So there's nothing to stop people from using some kind of a cocktail on their their operatives, or and something in addition to LSD.
A lot of people think that Sirhan was given a laced cocktail on the night of the assassination of RFK. He was seen drinking what were he thought they were I think not tonics. Tom Collins That was the drink he was drinking.
Uh-huh.
And he went to a particular bartender, and there's a theory that bartender was part of the conspiracy. And he was
Oh,
stuff in his drinks.
He could have been Mickey Finn.
Yeah.
Mickey Finn with CS,
That's the
LSD 100.
Linda Pease is very strong on that line of thinking in her book.
makes
Those
sense.
are also very interesting spin-offs
In
to
control of all things. There's that theme again, you know.
this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's stuff. I mean, there's so many. I don't want to say they're rabbit holes, but there's so many tangents to this whole story that it's almost difficult to organize it, isn't it, Nanette? I mean, you have to kind of plow
It
through.
is. It is. And that's why you've got to kind of stick to your strict path of your research and what it is that you're doing. If you're going to be good at any part of it, I can't be good at all parts of this. I cannot cover victimology.
It's a lot.
It's far too much. And I don't know if Nolan, if you were here for this, but I just redid my office. I got new filing cabinets over the weekend and completely reorganized everything that I had in my office. And what you're seeing right there on the screen is more than 12,000 digital files, 18 plus 3 to 5 inch binders, 20 plus hanging file folders, and pages of notes that I've taken throughout my research in this case that most people aren't really aware of. They think that I'm just kind of half-assing it or that I'm not doing the research. I can only research in one way, and my research is Jack. That's it. I'm not here to elaborate on the victimology, on who their parents were, how it connects. I can only say to proximity, Jack is the person you should be looking at. Jack is who my suspect is and who I've made the handwriting match on. But this gives people kind of an idea of exactly how much work I've done since 2009 on this case.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I think the three of us augment what you're doing, Nanette, all the time. And that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to go on a tangent, but unfortunately, the damn case has so many tangents to it that if somebody throws something in, an idea, we kick it around, and that puts us behind on your your route that you're taking. But you know what I'm saying? You know
tangents, radians.
Yeah, I mean everything. Yes. Tangents, radians, right?
If I could mark these with inches along the radians, I bet you I'd cover as much mileage as that Mount Diablo map does by by Dennis. I can probably stretch.
You're gonna, in terms of overview, it's an important thing in terms of overview, isn't it? All this stuff is important, but got so much to digest. You got to figure out what to say next. What do we go at next? You know what? But I think you're doing a good job of organizing all of it, Nanette. I wouldn't sweat any troll people at all. I would just, I'd tune them out. Say your piece and tune them out.
I have, but every now and again, she does come up with some good statement, like the reference to the Poe and Edgar Allan Poe. She obviously has other research she's done, why she's not put hers together and why she isn't doing something to formulate her opinion so that she can get her words out there. Somewhere in the middle, we're all going to have a little bit of information that's off, but we're going to have information that's good. And what I'm looking for is that good information within the actual research that people are doing that helps to actually bind these puzzle pieces together.
Right. Oh, Dennis did a good job what he did for his capacity and what he was working with, I think.
Exactly. I think you said the key word there, for his capacity. You got to remember, he's the stepson of the Zodiac and a person who was used to using drugs, taught Dennis how to make drugs. Dennis, like I said, did not lead the cleanest path in life, but he was able to put some of this stuff together as it related to Jack only because Jack fit. If Jack didn't fit, we wouldn't be sitting here where we are today.
Yep.
Well, we've got about 1 minute left. Is there anything Terry, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, I know that we covered mostly the Radians here, but those who are following the shows, I just wanted to be really quick where Jack is talking about that particular stamp that they're looking for. I know people have some. They're selling them 5,000.
Okay. I meant something really quick, and I had actually asked Terry. So I think we got a little confused here. I said I had a minute left. I'm looking for a sign off when I say this to you guys. Like if you have something last minute to say, hello, goodbye, whatever it is, not really like another line of reasoning.
Sorry.
But that's okay.
Go ahead. Somebody else.
Is there anything left for you, Nolan?
I'm good. I came in late, so I'm just catching up, and then the technical problems kind of messed me up.
We'll get it figured out. I'll talk to you after
I want
the
to talk
show.
about that stamp
Thank
thing
you
that
guys.
you brought up.
Thank you guys for being with us today. I hope everybody enjoyed. Have a
happy holidays.
Come on, you guys. I'm trying to sign off. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. We will see you all next week. Take care. Oh,